Welcome to the Mind Your Wedding Business podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 30 years ago. Each week on this podcast, you'll hear thought-provoking and empowering interviews with wedding professionals who have found success in the industry. If you're a business-minded wedding pro who loves love, but also cares about their bottom line, buckle up and get ready to learn from a new industry expert each week. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business. I'm here with Jamie Chang. She's going to be talking to us about some interesting weather stuff. So I'm kind of interested to get into it. But Jamie, before we jump into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got you here today?
Yeah, first of all, I'm super excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I'm Jamie Chang. I am the owner, the CEO, the lead planner, all the things.
The janitor? Mango. Are you the janitor
yes,
too?
I am also the janitor. I am also the cook. I am also all the things at Mango Muse Events. I started this company over 16 years ago now, which sounds a little crazy when I say it out loud, but has gone super fast and super slow all at the same time. We do specifically destination weddings all over the world, all over the country, and that's our clientele. We focus a lot on personal, meaningful, personalized weddings where it reflects the couple, what they love, their values, and what they're, what's important to them when it comes to celebrating their wedding day.
I love it. All right. So we're going to be here talking about adapting your wedding business to the changing climate. And we're talking about weather. So I want to make sure you are clear on that. But so when did you start thinking about climate change and how it could impact the wedding industry and what really pushed this topic to kind of the forefront for you?
Yeah, it's always sort of been there for me, just sort of lingering back here. I think one of the big turning points, and you might be able to relate to this, seeing as you're also sort of in the Bay Area, was, in 2020, when we had that crazy orange sky.
Yep.
And it was from all the wildfires. Yeah, for those who don't know, it was from all the wildfires. And it would just look like the apocalypse had arrived.
It really did. Yeah.
And
it was for days. It went on forever.
It was for days. It was scary. Obviously, there was lots of smoke in the air associated with it. And I think perhaps for the first real time, it sort of hit me in the face that this climate change I wasn't a disbeliever before. I was always concerned, but I think when it hits you personally at home in front of your face, which I think for many people now, they've experienced something where they've sort of come face to face with the fact that things are changing for real. It's not just an idea, right? A hypothetical thing that scientists talk about. It's real. It's here and it's not going away. I think that was sort of one of the bigger triggers for me. And then I just started to think about it in the sense of what I do personally. So kind of not really even the industry as a whole, just me and my events. And the fact that I do destination weddings, which I love them. But if we're being very, honest, there is a huge climate impact from destination weddings, specifically more so than, say, hometown weddings, purely because of the travel aspect.
Yeah.
So that sort of hurts me. Because this is what I do and this is what I love, but it's also, I understand the impact we're having in not a good way on the climate, on the earth, on, our fellow human beings and plants and animals, etc. And so that, it gets you thinking about what maybe you want to change or need to change, or how we collectively as an industry also need to make some changes.
Yeah. All right. So what are some of the most visible ways you're seeing climate change affect the wedding and events today? From weather to logistics.
Yeah. I mean, I think weather is a great place to start. I think
Okay.
that's the thing we can see, right? We can
Mhm.
feel. And once again, I think we've all experienced something, right? Whether that's even if it's just purely super intense heat, that's something I think almost everybody has experienced wherever they are, right? Like,
Mhm.
and varying degrees of what their version of intense heat is, but it's hotter. It's just plain hotter than it was before.
Yeah.
And the heat waves, right? Like here in the Bay, like the heat waves get longer,
Yeah.
and they're worse. The temperatures are higher. They don't come down as fast. I think everyone's sort of experienced that. But then there's wildfires once again here in California. There's flooding, as we've experienced, or unfortunately, Texas has just experienced.
Yeah.
There's hurricanes, right? Which hurricanes are not new, and wildfires aren't new, but everything's become bigger and more destructive and lasting longer, and all of that. I think wherever you live, you've experienced something, whether that's tornadoes or drought, even just plain drought. How that affects things like crops and stuff.
Yeah, we went through the drought in the California for a while, a long time, and my wife and I were just in Hawaii, and we saw like someone driving down the road with those big tanks of water on the back of their car, and I'm like, remember when everyone was driving around our town and you were able to go get recycled water just to water your plants? And
Yeah.
so yeah, we've experienced all that kind of crazy stuff. So, and then I was going to say too is I was in Orlando just about a month ago for software training for the software that we use for our business, and I got on my phone like a severe weather alert, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's gonna thunderstorms, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, it says it's going to happen in an hour. So I ran over because it was my last night there to grab my wife a caramel apple from Disney, the Disney area, to bring home on the airplane for her as a good
How
husband.
nice of you.
Right? Well, no, I was an idiot because they literally got 4.5 inches of rain in like a short. There was water. I mean, I was on the freeway driving back to my hotel doing like 20 miles an hour, just trying to follow the person in front of me going, what the hell? So again, it's more like, I think it goes to you that more intense, more, it's crazy. And then I was talking. So then I went to dinner that night talking to the waitress, and she said, yeah, this is how it is now. And she goes, I don't know why people even go to the theme parks here in the summer, because come about 2, 3, 4 o'clock, you're going to get rain, and they usually shut the parks down. So yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
the changes we're experiencing, and things are more unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
Like it can come suddenly, or something changes, or what you thought you like understood about the seasonal patterns are not the case. Like we were just talking about this, right? How it's a lot cooler here in the Bay Area this summer than it has been and is normally. It's I'm not gonna complain, but it's also a little weird, right?
Yeah,
Like
it is a little strange.
And so I guess my point is, it's all of those different things are hard to plan for, because it's the year is different now. It's not necessarily what it was, historically. It every year is different. Every year is different. And so I think the question is, how do you plan for that, right? Which is, the answer is that it's hard, but it affects everything, right? It affects the venue you choose. It affects the location you pick. Like, do you remember, like, before we never had to think about planning around wildfires, like wildfire season, right? That wasn't even something you thought about, but now it is, right? Because if something were to happen and there's smoke, I mean, obviously if you're in danger, the wedding's canceled, but if you're close enough where that's not the case, but you're dealing with high levels of, like, carcinogenic smoke, or people trying to evacuate or what have you, that's gonna play into your wedding as well, right? And what's happening and how that happens, and if it can happen, and your guests, and all the logistics that go into that. So it's sort of that weather, I would say, is the starting point. That sort of affects everything else.
Yeah. And so we are in the wedding industry here in the Bay Area where we go year round with weddings. So it's like I have friends that are outside of the, of the California area, and they have seasons,
Yep.
like example right now in Arizona, weddings are not happening because it's 1,000,000 degrees.
It's too
And,
hot.
so
It's
yeah.
just too
And so
hot.
they go more winter time, and then other places where it snows, the weddings slow down because it's harder to have a wedding in those type of conditions. So it is getting more harder to predict these type of things. So
It is. And then if it's harder to predict, it's harder to plan, right?
well, yeah, it really is. So it always cracks me up because my couples will go, "Oh, I'm going to go a year before my wedding date to my wedding venue and see what the weather's like." I'm like, you can't do that anymore because it's,
You're like,
you know,
you can,
no,
but
yeah,
take
but
it with
it's,
a grain of salt, because who
yeah.
knows what it's going to actually be like on your day.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right. Well, how can wedding professionals start like future proofing their business against extreme weather or like supply chain disruptions because of weather, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think a good place to start, and this is kind of what I would recommend for sort of any company really, is just taking a look at your internal processes.
Mm-hmm.
So everything like start to finish. And it's a really good audit also just for yourself, for efficiency sake, right? For pricing, all the things, right? Like taking some time to really look at your like start to finish of what that really looks like, of not just your client process, but sort of how you run your business, the vendors you use that maybe you get materials from or software from or whatever, right? You have these different people you work with to help make your business run. And the question is, are you utilizing perhaps the best options for you? And that's different for everyone, right? We're all small businesses. We all function a little differently, but really like we're not millionaires. Like we're not big companies that have lots of capital, like just hanging out in our, mattresses. We don't work that way. Right. And so we do have to be careful as well. Right. So that we're, making thoughtful and, maybe not words not accurate, but sort of just business decisions that make sense for us from a profit standpoint, right? To support our employees, to support the brand we're trying to create, all those things. And so I do think starting there and taking a look, like kind of in a fine tooth comb way, sort of how you do things and what that means from a either supplier standpoint or even an efficiency standpoint. Like there's a lot of things with regards to like reducing your climate impact that really are like I call them like win situations, like multiple wins where you're also being more efficient. And maybe you're also saving on costs. And maybe you're also thinking about, when you switch to this supplier versus that supplier, this one's perhaps more local. And thus, if there's a problem, they're nearby, or they're local in the sense of you're supporting a community nearby you, right? Or within your community. That's kind of awesome too. Like who doesn't love doing that? It's, you're lifting your whole community by your purchases, right? I do think we all have a lot of purchasing power that we don't think about. And as a business as well, right? Like not just as an individual, but as a business, like where we put our money and where we like kind of buy things from or get things from or work with, those relationships we're supporting in some shape or form, right? And so how we decide to do that, where we decide to do that, it matters too. But I do think there's to go back to my previous point, I do think there are win-win situations where
I was going to ask, what are some win-win situations?
If you think about, and this is something really small, okay, but if you think about sort of that process of with your client, right? What does that look like? Is there still do like some form of like a paper proposal, a paper contract, right? I mean, we're not gonna we can't, I don't think I can actually, I mean, I'm sure someone could. I don't think I could actually calculate like what's the cost of that one piece of paper, but it's more this idea of if you switched to all electronic, which at this point, I mean, hopefully most people have, but I'm sure there's some who aren't. And if you switch to that, what does that mean? That means that you're not printing, right? You're not storing. You have a digital copy that you can always reference. They can reference it. You don't have to have a printer, right? Potentially. There's like trickle effects. And then from a client standpoint, right, it's sort of expected at this point. So it's also you're meeting expectations of clients and what they want to receive and how they want to take care of, say, for example, a contract or paying for a deposit, for example, as well. Thinking about those kinds of pieces is partially efficiency. It's partially how you're working with your client. But from a climate aspect, right, you've eliminated paper and potentially even the need of a printer. And that's kind of big, right? If you think collectively over the course of years of potential clients and clients, that could be substantial.
Yeah. That was one of
small, right?
Yeah, and
but
I was going to say in COVID, we were already pre-COVID, we were going through that process of going, figuring out how to go completely paperless. And then we had nothing to do in COVID and we figured it out. We still have printers here just in case. Every once in a while, we'll have a client that comes in and will ask for a paper print of their estimate and I'm like, sure. And, but like we used to go through reams of paper a month, and then now, or not like boxes, cases of paper every month. And, now it's like I buy them and it's like maybe like a whole case will last me almost a year.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah,
right?
It really is. It really
and
is.
And then there's ink, right?
Yeah.
So you still have the printer, but now maybe you don't need to always be upgrading the printer, right?
Yeah.
The same old printer's good because you don't use it that often.
Yep.
And you don't need to buy ink every month or whatever. That makes a difference.
Oh yeah, big does. It really does. All right. So what role does sustainability play in building a more climate resistant business?
So I think it's important to think about the actual word sustainability because I know it's for many it's associated with climate and with climate change and creating, a more climate friendly wedding, for example, a climate friendly business. But I think it's also important to remember that the definition behind it is really just to be able to maintain something at a certain level, right? So you want, right? If we're using that definition, you want a sustainable business, right? We want something that lasts, that can continue, that can weather, I'm being punny here, but weather the storm, right? Both literally and figuratively, right? I would count COVID as a huge storm that we all went through, and making it to the end of that, I think, is a huge success on any business that got through it and survived. Like that's a big storm. But I think that idea of being able to maintain a business and the business that you are trying to create and you stand behind and has like emanates the values that you care about, I think that's important to any business owner, right? I mean, unless your goal is to sell your business or you're done. Let's say, for example, you've decided to move on to something else. That's what we want. We want our business to survive and thrive and to maintain that level, right? Whatever that level is that we're aiming for, and everyone is different, but that's the goal. So I think starting there and thinking about it like that first before we get into the climate side is important, because that piece will always be important, right? You always want that for your business. And so then you translate that from that standpoint to the idea of how can, sustainability or being more sustainable also help you be more resilient, right? It's the two actually kind of go hand in hand. Like if you can create a business where, once again, like you're thinking through that process of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And I think that includes also like, it's not just the operations end of things. It's also your employees, right?
Oh.
And how you're treating them. And I can talk about a specific incident here, but I think that all of that relates to how resilient as a business you are to things that change, to things that throw at you, whether that's a weather thing, whether that's our lovely tariffs, whether that's, any other kind of supply chain disruption, which, to be really honest, is very related to climate in a lot of cases. And obviously politics, but we'll shove that to the side for a moment.
Yes, please.
But that all plays into it, and like how expensive something becomes, or whether you can even get something anymore from a certain place, right? Like that will all play into that does all play into sort of climate change and the issues we're facing. But if you can adapt as a company and, once again, kind of think through how you do things, who you work with, how you approach things, how that gets built into, say, your pricing, but also your operations, then you can kind of flow a little more, right, with changes that happen. One thing I feel like a lot of, going kind of back to the whole intense heat thing, one thing I've been thinking a lot about, which perhaps you have as well, is this idea behind, we were so used to operating in a certain way. And I think that's the case for a lot of businesses, right? Like it works, we're good. Like, once again, sustainable,
ain't broke,
right?
don't fix it.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense in a lot of cases, but as the weather, the physical weather, but just the climate of the world, as that shifts, like you have to shift too, right? And one thing I've been seeing, which I think is not something that gets talked about a lot, is sort of the health, or thinking about the health of the, our team members, the vendors that are on site at a wedding, in the sense of like the environment. So I've literally been at weddings where we have like a rental team on site, and there's a guy who's like has to lie down because it's so hot that like he can't function anymore. Like he's about to pass out. And so, we're like, yes, please, like lie down in the shade, drink some water, like take your time. But I think it's different now where you sort of have to build that in, that like taking care of yourself, taking care of your team, because it's different now. It's harder, honestly, than it was.
Yeah. Well, and something that we had to start doing is we send out our guys with ice chests with liquids, and we're trying to plan in breaks. We're trying to plan, all that stuff, and take that into account into the overall setup, so we don't run into that instance that you used to, that you described. And
exactly.
I remember we were coming out of COVID, and it was, we're still having like the heat and the fires that you were talking about, and trying to get all these wonderful weddings that got canceled, get them all done.
Yes.
But it was really, really hot. And I looked over at the photographer, and she was turning gray. Like her lips were gray. And I'm like, girl, and it's someone I knew. So I was like, you're not right. Something's wrong. So we like sat her down. We like got water on, tried to hydrate her. We even like went to as far as called her husband. Thankfully, she had a second shooter that was continuing to, go. And I kind of helped her behind the scenes. And then we went and got one of our vans and like put her in the van, turn on the air conditioning as high, we were trying to do whatever we could because, and then she ended up coming through it, but it was like the craziest, like 45 minutes. I was like, what, and it all happened like during cocktail hour, but she was standing out there in the extreme heat during the ceremony and was not thinking about herself. She was just on get her done mode.
Yes.
And yeah, it was crazy. I'll never forget. Because I see her all the time, and her lips were gray. Like I was like, what is? And I'm not a medical person, and anything to do with medical, blood, anything, I freak out. I can't handle it.
I'm totally the same.
Yeah, but it's funny because I'll talk to people in the medical world. They're like, how do you deal with brides? And I'm like, give me a crazy bride any day of the week. I'm happy, but I can't.
Keep me away from the needles.
Yep. And blood and I can't do any of that stuff. So
same. No, it's true. And we're so used to, I think as businesses, and specifically wedding businesses, right? We're so used to just going, and we're just on, and we know we have to be on because you can't go back in time, right?
Yeah.
You can't change something. Oh, wait, sorry, walk down the aisle again. Like that's is not happening, right? And so
not the movies.
No, we have to be on, and we are on. But the results of that too is we definitely, and I am guilty of this too. We fail to take care of ourselves in that process. Like even just drinking water and eating something. Like, it's like, no, I have to get this done, right? Like we're behind schedule, and like, it's important that this happens this time so that this person come in and do this, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're just going for like 12 hours. And if you're not careful, right, you can end up in that situation. I've certainly been there too, where there are moments I'm like, okay, ooh, like I need 5. Like I just need to sit in a chair, somewhere cool, drink some water.
Yep.
Because like I can tell, like my head's starting to not feel so
starting
great.
To see stars. You're trying, you're like, this is not right.
Yeah, you're starting to hallucinate a little bit. I'm just joking. But it's one of those things where you're so used to going, and I think a lot of us are that way. That we're there for our clients, right? And so we push it. We push it harder, I think, than maybe any other industry in this sense. Like, but that as a result, right, there's some health things as well. So I love that you've like thought about that and brought that into your business, because I do think there's not all businesses have where they've built that. And to some degree, maybe that means more staff. Maybe that means, and thus, the cost of something goes up so that you can bring in that extra staff and they can switch out, right? While this team takes a little break, or this person takes a little break while this person takes over. It's necessary though, because it's a health thing, right? Yeah. You want us to be at our best. And so in order to do that, this is what we need.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure all clients understand that, but I try to explain that to people, because we're professionals, and we're here to help, execute this amazing day for you, but we need to be at our best. And in order to do that, right, that this is what we need.
Yeah. Help me help you.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it will result in a better event. You'll be happier. We'll be happier. It'll be, just a happier day.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
So many couples, especially younger generations, are increasingly concerned about like climate, sustainability. How can vendors reflect those values in a meaningful way?
Yeah, so I think this question is twofold, right? There's like the marketing side. So the face you're sharing with the world. But then there's also like, once again, like the business side. And I do think the most effective way is when those two things come together. Okay. So what you're doing in your business is what you're projecting out to the world. So, we'll take your example, right? We've built in processes to protect our team so that they're at their top level, and thus they're going to do their best for you, right? Like those two things align, as opposed to just talking about sustainability in a general sense, but not necessarily enacting that in your business in some shape or form. And no one has to be perfect. That's not, it's kind of impossible. And while that would be lovely, it's not the reality, right? It's about what you can do. It's sort of progress, not perfection, right? It's what you can do and the steps you're trying to take, even if you haven't been able to take them yet, right? Maybe that will take time. Maybe you need another year to sort of figure it out before you make any change. That's okay. I think it's a matter of being thoughtful about it. And so I think reflecting that to your clients and to this younger generation, which I do think are rightfully concerned. It's concerning. And this is for being super honest, like this is the future they're inheriting. This is the world they're inheriting, and their children, perhaps maybe more importantly. And so they're concerned, and they should be. And so to align with that, you should be concerned too, because it's going to affect your business. I do think, honestly, at some point, if you're not doing things to be more sustainable or to think about weddings in a more sustainable way, you're going to be left behind because you're just not going to align with what clients care about in the end, like what matters and like at our core kind of idea that as a business, right, you need to adapt once again. And that will make you more resilient as well, is if you can think about just sort of think about your business and the changes that maybe you can, or maybe you're fantastic. Like maybe your audit is awesome. And you've done a lot of things already, and maybe you just want to tweak this one area bothers you and you want to try and work on that. That's great, right? Every bit, I think, makes a difference. And it's sort of about collective change. Like once again, you or I personally, our businesses, we're not going to make that much of a difference. Just me, just you. But if we're all doing things that collectively, right? And once again, with every wedding we touch. So I also think it's about you as a business. But it's also about how you interact with your clients and the kinds of decisions they make. Once again, collectively, right? If they can make 5 more sustainable choices, that's 5 more sustainable choices, right? And if every client did that, as in every business did that, right? It builds. It builds.
And that's a good way, I think, of looking at it, because you might be like, well, if I just do one thing, how does that help? But it's looking at it as a whole. If we all start going that way, then that's when you're going to see the impact.
Yeah. It's hard. I'm going to be super honest. It's hard to tackle this as a person, as a small business, because you feel very small. And honestly, we are, right? We're just one person. But if you think about it beyond that, right? Beyond just just my business, but the clients I touch and the vendors I work with. And then, it's like a little spider web, right? It grows and it grows. And then collectively, as an industry, I think we can make a lot of change and in a good way, right? That benefits us as a business, but benefits the client, benefits weddings, like win-win-win, really.
Yeah, that's a good way. All right. So what advice do you have for vendors who want to be more like eco-conscious, but are unsure where to even start?
Yeah, it's, I would say, once again, start with taking a look at your internal business and sort of your processes. I think that's a good place to begin. You may not know what is more eco-friendly or eco-conscious, like what decision would be versus another, in which case there's a lot of information out there in the world. I mean, the internet, which can help you. But I also think there are other event professionals who are doing things in really interesting and cool ways to tackle this problem for their own business, right? Whether that's a rental company, whether that's a florist, whether that's a DJ, whether that's a planner. There are different ways to do this. And so talking, I think, with your community as well and seeing what others are doing is a way to learn as well. Because we can learn from each other, right? And everyone's
really
doing something potentially a little different than how you're doing it, and understanding sort of how they're doing it and what they're doing and why they decided to go this route, right? And what they've seen from it, like all those sorts of things can help you as a business to decide, okay, yeah, maybe I should look into switching the vans I use, or I should look into changing the way I process, payments. I don't know. Or I should look into how I store images, like those pieces. Every business is different, right? And we're all in different sort of verticals, if you will. And what we need and how we do things is slightly different, but you can take things, right, from other companies, whether or not they're in the same, they also, are a planner, or they're also a florist. You can take those pieces and use them in the way that makes sense for you and your business. And maybe even also play into sort of the kinds of businesses that you recommend or work with more, because you appreciate how they work through their process and the steps they're taking.
It's funny you say that, but I think also too maybe is look outside of our industry as well, and what are other industries doing, because that's another place. One of
For
the
sure.
like, because our company, Fantasy Sound, we do a lot of lighting and stuff, but during the week we do business meetings for corporate. And the best thing is I love teching those events, because they'll bring in a speaker to talk to the group, and even though it has nothing to do with me, I can always find something that the person's teaching them, and to grow, and build and bring back to my business that I will be impactful, and I'm like, it's free education I get and I get paid to do it like that's the best part of it. But yeah, but if you think about it, it's just, we can all be doing that too. It's just look outside of our industry, look outside everywhere, and how can we all be tackling this together? So
totally. That's a great point. I think we have like adjacent, right? Or even like you said, something maybe totally different that has nothing to do with weddings. Or it's something more adjacent, right? Like if you're a rental company and you do a lot of pipe and drape, like looking a little bit to like the fashion industry, right? And like what they might be doing with fabrics or what have you, right? Like there's a lot of different businesses that are working and doing cool things out there. That, for example, there's a company that I came across who does packaging for businesses. So things like retail, you need to
that's
package
big
up
business.
Yeah. But they focus on the physical, like, materials that you need to pack. And so they've found or they're working with a company who uses like algae ink. So it's there's no petroleum, like it's way more green. And it's kind of cool. Like if you haven't ever heard of algae ink, or there's sort of other businesses, like you said, that are doing very cool things out there that a catering company could look at, or whomever.
But even look at someone like Apple. Like Apple is a good example of, like, they're constantly pushing the envelope to make their stuff more sustainable, and their packaging and how they're constantly changing things. So it's like, even looking at a big company to get, I'm like, ideas, it would go a long way, I think, as well. So
yeah, I think you can glean things from lots of places.
Yeah.
It's going to take a little bit of time, right? It's going to take a little bit of research, but that's part of, you sort of adapting your business to make changes, or be more resilient, or be more efficient, or all the things, right? The win-win-wins that can kind of all come together to also feel really good. Because when you make these changes, it will help. It will help your business. It will help the world. And that's kind of awesome.
All right, Jamie, we're getting ready to wrap up. But before we do, I wanted to ask you this last question. So in what ways can an embracing climate, like, adaptation, actually help a business grow or make them, like, stand out in a saturated market?
So I do think there's not a lot of companies that are actually talking about this.
Okay.
Talking about sustainability in a bigger way, beyond just look at the...
We've gone paperless.
Right. Right. And honestly, like, I don't know how much clients are going to care about paperless, right? But I think if you're comfortable talking about it and the things you're doing as a business, or the things, maybe even more importantly, the things you care about, like as a person, because really we're small businesses, and yes, it's a brand, but it all stems from us, right? The owner, the founder, the team, like that all plays into who and what this business is, what we stand for. And I think sharing that with your realm, whether that's social media and clients and talking about it, or if it's just with colleagues as well, like getting, like, kind of just sharing that and how you feel about it and the things you care about and the things you're looking into, or the things you're working on, or the things you've changed. I think just purely talking about it is a big deal, because it's not talked about, and it should be. And I think being on the forefront of that will help you to stand out. You'll be different, right, than the rest of the group who, is just focused on making things pretty, right? Or and pretty is important, right? But if you can also do pretty and sustainable, like, that's kind of awesome. So I think talking about it is a way, even if it's just on your social media or just on your blog, like, just starting that is a way to show people, and people meaning lots of people, right? Your potential clients, your past clients, your colleagues and friends and family, etc. Like, that becomes known, that's A, something you care about, but B, something you're trying to do something about. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, I can't thank you enough. I be honest with you, I went into this going, I don't know how we're going to talk for 40 minutes. but here we are. We're at the 40-minute mark. So anyway, I can't thank you enough, because I think it's just going to make everyone think, and that's what I think a lot of us need to be, is just think about it. And if we go with the approach that if we do a little bit here and Jamie's doing a little bit there, and then that, vendor A, rental company B, everyone, and then we're all, that's where the impact, and that's where we have the biggest, impact when it's all said and done. So.
Yeah. And I do think it's a win-win, it can help your business and help the world and help your clients. And that's like,
that is a win-win.
Who doesn't want all those things?
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. So Jamie, how can we contact you, and how can we find you?
You can find me on all the socials. I'm most active on Instagram, but check me out at Mango Muse Events. That's where we are, sort of everywhere. And come and check out the blog. I write frequently. I talk a lot about sustainability. If that's something that you're interested in as a business or as a couple, you can use a lot of those tips as well to get you started.
And then Jamie will have all that information Jamie's information in our show notes, and you'll be able to get in touch with her as well. So Jamie, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business, brought to you by Wedding IQ. If you've got a topic you'd love to hear us cover, or if there's an area of your business you're struggling with, let us know and we'd be happy to help. Don't forget to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're a fan, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and left a review. It helps more wedding pros find us and learn more from our guests too. Thanks again for listening to Mind Your Wedding Business. We'll catch you next time.